What if I told you that while you're grinding to make ends meet, the US government is quietly stealing your future at a rate of $83 billion every single month? That's not fixing roads. That's not funding schools. That's just interest, the cost of borrowing. And someone is getting rich off that payment while your purchasing power evaporates. This is a mathematical time bomb, and the fuse is already burning. What I'm about to reveal is the hidden timeline they don't want you to see. This is how America's $39 trillion debt will steal your future. As of April 2026, the U.S. national debt is closing in on $39 trillion. That's $289,000 for every household in America. It's like you signed a second mortgage you never asked for, but you're paying for it every single day. And Washington? They're counting on you not understanding how this works. They're hoping the number is so big you just tune out. This isn't just a number on a screen. This is a tower of financial Jenga blocks stacked so high it's starting to wobble. For decades, they've been pulling out blocks of economic stability and replacing them with blocks of debt. Higher and higher, more unstable. One wrong move, one sudden shock, and the whole thing comes crashing down. How did we build this? Something changed in the 1980s. Tax cuts and defense spending tripled the debt. The wars in Iraq and Afghanistan added trillions more. The 2008 financial crisis demanded massive stimulus. Then COVID hit, and they unleashed trillions like there was no tomorrow. Each crisis became an excuse to borrow more. And now we've blown past 100% of our entire economic output. The Congressional Budget Office says we're on track to break our all-time record high in just a few years. That record was set right after World War II. We're approaching World War II debt levels with no war to justify it. So why should you care? Because the consequences are hitting you right now in three brutal ways. First, the hidden inflation tax. When the government spends trillions more than it collects, the Federal Reserve creates money out of thin air. All that freshly printed money devalues every dollar you've worked for, every dollar in your savings. You don't see this tax on your pay stub, but you feel it every time you buy groceries, fill up your car, or look at your bills. That feeling of working harder but falling behind? That's the inflation tax transferring wealth from your pocket to theirs. Second, the service squeeze. That $83 billion monthly interest payment has to come from somewhere. We now spend more on interest than on national defense, more than veterans benefits, transportation, and education combined. Every dollar wasted on interest can't fix your roads, fund research, or lower your taxes. It's thrown into a black hole. By the mid-2030s, interest and entitlements will consume nearly all federal tax revenue. Almost nothing left for anything else. Third, the interest rate trap. The government is the biggest borrower on the planet. When it borrows trillions yearly, it competes with you for money. To attract lenders, treasury rates rise. And when those rates rise, your mortgage rate rises, your car loan rises, your credit card rises. The debt explosion is why mortgage rates hit 2-decade highs, adding hundreds or thousands to monthly payments for families trying to buy homes. Now here's where the story gets darker. Here's the hidden timeline they're desperately hoping you don't understand. Because the question isn't just if this debt is a problem, the question is when it forces a crisis. And the answer is all about something called debt refinancing, and it's happening right now. For over a decade after 2008, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates near zero. The government, like a kid in a candy store with a stolen credit card, borrowed trillions at rock-bottom rates. But here's the catch they didn't tell you. Most of that debt wasn't locked in for 30 years like a mortgage. A huge chunk of it was short-term debt, maturing in just a few years. It was the financial equivalent of taking out an adjustable rate mortgage right before rates explode. And now, that moment has arrived. All that cheap debt from the past decade is coming due. It has to be refinanced. It has to be rolled over. But now, instead of borrowing at 1% or 2%, they're forced to borrow at 4%, 5%, even 6%. The average interest rate on the national debt has already doubled in just a few short years. This is creating what economists call a maturity wall, and we're about to slam right into it. Look at the numbers. In the next year alone, roughly 1/3 of all U.S. debt is set to mature. We're talking trillions of dollars. Add in the new borrowing needed to cover the annual deficit, and the Treasury is being forced to issue staggering amounts of new debt, amounts that are testing the very limits of what the bond market can absorb. This is the ticking time bomb. As we refinance trillions in old cheap debt at these new, higher rates, the amount spent on interest is set to explode. The Congressional Budget Office projects that annual interest payments will rocket from $1 trillion in 2026 to over $2.1 trillion by 2036. It's on track to become the single largest expenditure in the entire federal budget, bigger than Social Security, bigger than Medicare. This isn't a political talking point. It's a mathematical certainty baked into the bonds that have already been sold. So what happens when a country can no longer afford the interest on its debt? History gives us three options, and I need you to understand that none of them are good for you. Option 1 is massive tax hikes, not just on billionaires, but on you, on middle-class families, on small businesses. They'll squeeze every last drop out of the economy to service this debt, and it will crush economic growth in the process. Option 2 is draconian cuts to the services and benefits you're counting on. Social Security's retirement fund is already projected to be depleted by 2033. If Congress does nothing, that triggers an automatic 23% cut in benefits for retirees. The debt crisis makes fixing this almost impossible because there's no money left. The safety net you've been paying into your entire working life could be slashed right when you need it most. Option 3 is the most terrifying. The Federal Reserve could be pressured to simply print the money to pay the bills. This is the path to hyperinflation, the complete destruction of the dollar's purchasing power, the annihilation of middle-class savings and wealth. This is how empires collapse from the inside. The warning signs are already flashing. In 2023, Fitch downgraded the US government's credit rating from the highest AAA level to AA+. They cited the expected fiscal disaster, the growing debt burden, and political dysfunction. This was only the second time in American history this happened. It's a bright red flag to the world that America's financial house is crumbling. So what do? This situation feels overwhelming. It feels like you have zero control. But that's what they want you to think. Because while you can't print $1 trillion to fix Washington's mess, you absolutely can take steps to build a financial fortress to protect yourself and your family from the fallout that's coming. First, get serious about your own debt. While the government can print money to escape its problems, you cannot. High-interest credit card debt and variable rate loans are an anchor around your neck in a rising rate environment. Attack them aggressively, pay them down, free yourself from that burden before the next wave hits. Second, think hard about where your money is sitting right now. Cash in a traditional savings account is losing purchasing power to inflation every single day. You need to look at assets that have historically performed well during financial chaos. Real estate, Treasury inflation-protected securities, also called TIPS, even hard assets like gold that can't be devalued by a printing press. The goal is to own things with real value that can't be destroyed by currency manipulation. Third, brace yourself for higher taxes. The math says they're inevitable. Maximize your contributions to tax-sheltered retirement accounts, 401ks, IRAs, and especially Roth IRAs. A Roth is powerful because you pay the taxes now at today's rates, and then your money grows and can be withdrawn completely tax-free in retirement. If tax rates are significantly higher in the future, which seems almost certain, this strategy could save you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. This isn't about trying to time the market perfectly. This is about preparing for what's mathematically inevitable. The storm is already forming on the horizon. You can still build shelter before it hits. Let me bring this all together for you. The $39 trillion debt isn't an abstract number debated in Washington hearing rooms. It's a clear and present danger to your financial security. The hidden inflation tax is already stealing your purchasing power. The service squeeze is already cutting programs and opportunities. The interest rate trap is already making it harder for you to afford a home or a car. And the refinancing time bomb is ticking louder with every passing month. This is a mathematical crisis, not a political game. And the most dangerous thing you can possibly do is ignore it and hope it goes away. The people in power are counting on your apathy. They're counting on you not understanding how this works. They're counting on you being too busy, too tired, too overwhelmed to pay attention. But now you know. You know the timeline. You know the mechanism. You know what's coming. And most importantly, you know how to prepare. If you want to keep learning how to navigate these economic storms and protect your wealth while everyone else is getting crushed, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.